What you're looking at here is a mock-up, if you like, a cross-section of the actual wall arrangements. That includes the roofing and the roofing insulation, and it includes the sides of the museum, including the timber cladding. What you're going to see this morning will be the base height for the roof. That's the corrugated sections you see up there. And you're going to see what they call the MET-sec, or the metal securing arrangements, which you're actually going to see starting to be erected, which is a good indication that soon will follow the timber cladding. The aim of the whole project at this particular time is to get the building sealed by the end of September, because we haven't got to be a genius to realise by the end of September we can really expect bad weather. We're having bad weather now, but we don't expect it. There's the difference. So the aim is to get the building weather tight by the end of September, so they can get on in earnest in the large amount of fitting out work that has to take place. Internal walls, bulkheads, compartments, running services, all that good stuff. So this just gets it in context and lets you see in context what's happening on site. Recall from your history that in the days of the Mary Rose, most people were illiterate. It was really the clergy to a certain extent and the professional people who could actually read and write as such. So that people used to leave their mark, i.e. the artefacts on board, the plates, the cups, the mugs and so on and so forth. Each person would have his own particular mark to actually enable him to identify his own property. And what you see here, this scribe, is a fairly typical mark of an individual. I don't know what individual, but nonetheless, it is a mark very typical of the age. And of course, I'm not too au fait with this sort of thing, but in fact, in addition to that, the cladding will have names on it for those people who've provided a major subscription to the whole project. So it's pretty good. It's a lasting memorial in that respect. So you've got, if you like, 21st century writing and a replica of Tudor, the mark. Okay. I think this shot of the West End typifies really the taking of shape. The building is actually taking shape, as you can see, because what this will be the actual gallery, the West Gallery. It will be the balcony. We'll go up there in a moment, but it's really quite impressive, because what you see there is obviously the overall shape of the building, and beneath it you see the roofing, which we'll look at more closely, which is going on. But those vertical struts you see are called MET-sec, which is metal securings to which the cladding will be attached. Now you've just looked at the mock-up, so you can get that actually in context, and you see it's going to be a really nice shape. And you'll see the strange colour of the metal, with the greenish sort of colour. Well, that's intumescent paint. So basically, you think if we have a fire, you think, well, the timber's going to burn, but believe it or not, if the intensity of the fire would, and we're not going to have a fire incidentally, but if we did, the intumescent paint gives everyone the opportunity to escape, because if the heat gets too much, steel, even steel, warps and melts. So the intumescent paint is a fire retardant barrier, which is required by law, which I'm all in favour of. We don't intend to have a fire, I'll say again, but nonetheless we've got health and safety regulations and building standards and regulations that have to be complied with. What we do now is we'll go up and I'll take you onto the deck so you can actually get a closer look, and then we'll go to the top and look down on the roof itself, or at least the base roof that's laid so far, on which the insulation will actually be put. So it'll give you a good feel. We're in the West Gallery now, or what will be the West Gallery, with a very nice view of the harbour obviously. And what you see here is of course that the deck has actually been laid, concrete has been poured. This is not the final finish of the decking, because there will be screeding put down, and then ultimately the ultimate finish once we start fitting out. And what you also see here is a framework going up, which is in fact a screen which we'll have at the east and west, which will be glass panelled, and it will form the east and west boundaries of the hot box. So that's quite important, because the sooner we get that hot box more fully protected, the better, is really what it boils down to. And you see overhead safety nets, because the ultimate activity going on this time is to get that roof on, and you'll go up one level in a moment and you'll see that the guys are actually walking about on the roof. And clearly it's windy today, and it's quite often windy in this part of the world, isn't it? So if they did happen to fall or slip, they've got a safety net. And what you hear is that dreadful noise is in fact the securing arrangements for the roofing that's actually going on. Right, what you see here now is in fact at the context gallery level, and you can see the shape of the deck itself through the scaffolding, which ultimately will be screeded, and you'll see the opening in the background there. That's the opening into the void space, which in fact will be the main context gallery walkway, and they're busily decking that in now and doing the last of the steels in that particular area. The point about this is that what you see where the chaps have just gone in, the far screen, is in fact the southern screen to the actual hotbox. So between the hotbox and ourselves, you've just got that screen, which is insulation. And we're fighting the good fight to maintain the temperature. We are succeeding, but nonetheless, what we're anxious to do is to get that decking laid and screeded, so that we can close this section up again. But one of the features of the museum there will be in fact a screen wall, both south and north, which will actually provide the same sort of protection to the structure that's happening on the east and the west. Remember, you looked at the west. Right, where we are now is in the context gallery, or on the context gallery. So that's where the display cabinets are going to go, and what you see, those slots there, are the location of floor boxes. Through there will come all the services, because if you recall, one of the main features of this museum is that it is very strictly environmentally controlled, both internally and the building in general, so that we can actually preserve the artifacts within it. It's very hard to envisage how it's going to be, but here will be the artifacts, and if we look through here, and we'll pop through in a moment, which is now we call a void space, will actually be the main walkway, which will enable you on one hand to see the Mary Rose hull, and on the other hand to look at the artifacts, which will be suitably mounted to reflect the hull and the outfit as it was. What you see here, of course, is the north plant room, which we discussed very briefly, and the education pavilion. Now, it doesn't look much like an education pavilion at this time, but the major step so far has been to obviously erect the steel and then to roof it in. It is completely watertight at this time, with its final roof finishing, and they're now working on the interconnecting steels which connects both the plant room and the pavilion to the main building itself. And within the next 4 weeks, the actual walls and screens will be erected, and they will start actually to make it look like an education pavilion rather than just well, it looks a bit like a cow barn at this particular time, doesn't it? But it's an integral part of the steelwork effort that's been going on over the past several months. And I'm quite happy with progress thus far in this particular area, but it will be a fairly late on development into the actual education pavilion, as you'll see it when it's finished.